Local government teams shouldn't have to waste time on manual data entry into outdated systems. With Symphony 3 Smart Glue, you don't have to. You can automate repetitive tasks, eliminate double handling, and connect legacy systems with ease. Smart Glue helps councils streamline operations, reduce errors, and deliver better services without replacing your existing systems. It's time to build smarter, more connected local governments. Learn more at www.symphony3.com. Symphony 3, supporters of the Local Government News Roundup. Coming up, a win for a Metro Mayor in court, a councillor resignation to trigger another by-election, a culture of distrust and fear laid bare at Hobsons Bay, resignations from 2 New South Wales council chiefs, a groundbreaking report for the future of flood management in New South Wales, a bin chicken enlisted to fight Queensland's unpopular bin tax, calls for a controversial Tasmanian councillor to resign, plus pigeon eradication, a councillor pay rise, and a resignation leaves an 18-year-old in charge of a council. That's all coming up on Australia's #1 local government podcast. Hello, I'm Chris Eddy. This is the Local Government News Roundup. Also today on Roundup Extra, a concerning digital divide in how Australians interact with their local councils. We delve into a major new report with surprising findings. The Roundup is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences. Welcome along to the Wednesday, 2nd of July edition of the Roundup. Stonnington Mayor Melina Sear has been granted a 2-year personal safety intervention order against Council Watch President Dean Hurlston. The Age and others have reported that Melbourne Magistrates Court ruled Mr Hurlston's social media posts and messages crossed the line from legitimate political commentary into targeted harassment. Magistrate Michelle Hodgson found that the gendered and personal undertones of Mr Hurlston's communications were intended to cause mental harm, citing posts that depicted the Mayor as a Muppet character and made personal attacks regarding her mother's death. She said the content showed ample evidence of ill will, spite and animosity towards Councillor Sear, and she did not find Mr Hurlston to be a credible witness. The intervention order prevents Mr Hurlston from creating online forums targeting the Mayor and requires him to maintain a 2-metre distance. If breached, he could face up to 2 years' imprisonment. The order still allows for legitimate political commentary about the Mayor's professional role, provided it is factual and not personally harmful. The Herald Sun has reported that Councillor Sear is likely to pursue a defamation lawsuit against Mr Hurlston. There's further reporting also from ABC News. You'll find those links in our transcript. Wodonga councillor Hannah Seymour has announced her immediate resignation from the Lake Hume ward. The Border Mail reported that Ms Seymour made the surprise announcement on social media on Monday night after attending her final council meeting. Ms Seymour narrowly defeated former Mayor Ron Mildren by less than 100 votes in last year's election and has cited personal reasons for her departure, stating an opportunity has arisen interstate that will bring her closer to her support network. The council has confirmed that a by-election will be required to fill her vacancy on the council, with details yet to be announced. A report on organisational and cultural issues at Hobsons Bay City Council has been publicly released this week. The Listening and Support Process report summarises feedback gathered from 138 council staff members, detailing their experience of a culture of distrust, fear, bullying and systemic dysfunction. A range of concerning findings included 28% of participants reporting poor mental health requiring medical intervention, allegations that leadership kept blacklists of employees they wanted to exit from the organisation, and a lack of confidence to speak up about unacceptable behaviours. Report authors Brett Luxford and Jewel Fulton have made 23 recommendations for an action plan to address the issues in the organisation under new leadership. Rural councils across Victoria are calling for urgent government action as drought conditions continue to worsen. Rural Councils Victoria Chair and Campaspe Shire Councillor Rob Amos has urged for a comprehensive drought resilience strategy as entire communities, from farmers to local businesses, are feeling the strain. Despite recent government measures to expedite interstate fodder access and streamline kangaroo control permits, Corangamite Shire Mayor Kate Makin says more immediate support is needed. In related news, Corangamite Shire yesterday announced it had allocated $500,000 in its new budget for drought support, with specific programs to be funded yet to be confirmed. The Latrobe Health Assembly has begun formal closure procedures after 8 years in what has been described as a devastating blow for the region. The Latrobe Valley Express reported that strong local advocacy was unable to overturn a state government decision to withdraw the Assembly's funding. The Assembly has supported over 50,000 residents through more than 200 locally driven projects and will see its 27 active programs conclude as of June 30. Campaspe Shire has launched a new emergency dashboard to help residents stay informed during emergencies. The online platform brings together real-time updates from emergency services, weather warnings, road closures and relief centre locations, all in one place. Mayor Daniel Mackerel says the dashboard was developed after lessons learned from recent flood events and community feedback calling for a trusted local source of emergency information. The city of Frankston is moving ahead with a friendship city arrangement with Annapolis, the capital of Maryland in the US. Mayor Chris Bolam told me the arrangement has been in the works for some years.
They had actually reached out to us, the city of Annapolis, which, as you said, is in Maryland. It's the capital of Maryland. And they were interested in forming a relationship. But at the time, Frankston was pursuing another relationship, so we didn't engage.
After a self-funded visit earlier this year to Annapolis, Mayor Bolam plans to return later this year to finalise the agreement at a time when he believes stronger ties need to be formed.
With all that's been going on in the world right now and geopolitics, we felt it was a good time, believe it or not, to reach out, as opposed to running away from that very important relationship between the United States and Australia. We felt the best time to show friendship is in times of need and challenge, and it just felt like the right time for us to engage with Annapolis, and they were thrilled.
Tune in to VLGA Connect this Friday when I discuss a range of issues with Frankston Mayor Councillor Chris Bolam. Briefly now, the Victorian Independent Remuneration Tribunal has determined a 3% increase in base allowances for mayors, deputy mayors and councillors effective 1 July. Mayor and deputy mayor base allowances that take effect in December will also increase by 3%, and the tribunal has adjusted the value of the remote area travel allowance by 3%. Wellington Shire Council has updated its local law to align with modern standards, ensure legal compliance and reflect community expectations, with changes to fines, toilet facility access, smoking regulations and pet ownership rules. The amended local law includes the removal of gender-based restrictions on toilet facilities to support transgender and gender-diverse individuals. It's out for community consultation now. And Moonee Valley City Council has announced an Australian first exhibition exploring playground history from the 1930s to today. The Playground Project Melbourne is now open at the council's Incinerator Gallery, featuring immersive installations and programs for all ages. The exhibition will run for 4 months. This is the Local Government News Roundup for Wednesday the 2nd of July, brought to you by the VLGA with support from Symphony 3, and coming up later in this edition, a Roundup Extra, a concerning digital divide in how Australians interact with their local councils has emerged in a major new report with surprising findings. More on that coming up later in this edition. Let's head into our New South Wales report. Lithgow Council has voted down a motion this week for it to be renamed to Seven Valleys Council. The motion from Councillor Tom Evangelidis was put forward to align with the local tourism campaign, and it pointed to the Blue Mountains and Sunshine Coast Councils as examples of LGAs named after regions rather than towns. The Lithgow Mercury reported the motion came after the council decided to exclude Lithgow from an updated Seven Valleys tourism campaign. Most councillors, including Mayor Cassandra Coleman, did not support the idea for reasons of cost and existing name recognition in the broader political arena. A groundbreaking report released this week could change the future of flood management in Lismore and the Northern Rivers region. The CSIRO has completed Phase 2 of its flood modelling for the Richmond River catchment, providing what Lismore Mayor Steve Krieg calls the most detailed and scientifically robust flood mapping the region has ever seen. The report uses local data, remote sensing and advanced modelling to give an unprecedented understanding of how floodwaters move through the catchment. Mayor Krieg says it offers not just insights into the catastrophic 2022 floods, but gives governments the technical confidence to invest in meaningful resilience measures. With the modelling now complete, the Mayor is calling on the Australian government to fund the implementation of the CSIRO's forthcoming mitigation recommendations. In senior executive news this week, Berrigan Shire Council has confirmed the resignation of Chief Executive Officer Karina Ewer after 4 years in the position. At an extraordinary council meeting on Monday, the council formally accepted Ms Ewer's resignation, which she submitted for family reasons. Ms Ewer moved from Streaky Bay Council in South Australia in June 2021 on a 5-year contract. It's since been announced that she's returning home to North Queensland to take up the CEO position at Charters Towers Regional Council in August. Berrigan Council has scheduled another extraordinary meeting for next Monday to discuss the appointment of an interim CEO. And Greg Torrey, who served as General Manager of Lachlan Shire Council since July 2018, has resigned effective September 2nd to take up the role of CEO with Glamorgan Spring Bay Council in Tasmania. Mr Torrey said he had mixed feelings about leaving, but is looking forward to new challenges in his new role. Shoalhaven City Council has received a financial boost in its fight against illegal dumping, which has surged by a staggering 60% since 2023, according to the South Coast News. The New South Wales EPA has provided nearly $80,000 to help combat the growing environmental threat. The funds will support education initiatives and the installation of deterrents, including signage, bollards and CCTV cameras. Shoalhaven Mayor Patricia White described the rising trend as alarming, noting that council crews have removed approximately 450 tonnes of waste from public land over the past 2 years, at a cost exceeding $200,000. At Port Macquarie Hastings, the Mayor Adam Roberts has launched a strong appeal to the state government, demanding the Oxley Highway corridor between Wrights Road and Lake Road be designated as a priority infrastructure project. Speaking at a press conference yesterday, Mayor Roberts described the situation as critical, with the highway already operating at capacity and handling more than 20,000 vehicles daily. Council projections paint a concerning picture, with peak hour travel times potentially increasing by up to 40 minutes by 2040 if no action is taken. The Mayor is disappointed that no funding was allocated in the recent New South Wales budget to address the issue. Cumberland Council has given the green light to a mass pigeon eradication program targeting non-native species in Granville, Marylands and Auburn. The Sydney Morning Herald reported that the cull is set to begin on the 1st of August, with private pest controllers being appointed to carry out the operation. Local business owners have been complaining about pigeons taking over shopping strips. The plan has drawn criticism from animal rights advocates. New South Wales Animal Justice Party MP Emma Hurst has condemned it as animal cruelty and a band-aid solution. Georges River Council has unanimously voted to take action against the rising tide of violence in grassroots soccer, according to a report from the St George and Sutherland Shire leader. The decision comes following a disturbing incident at Gannon's Park last month, where police responded to reports of up to 40 fans and players engaged in a brawl. And the mayors of Albury and Wodonga have reaffirmed their commitment to the two cities' One Community partnership. Albury Mayor Kevin Mack and Wodonga Mayor Michael Goebel, along with councillors from both cities, met in Wodonga to discuss future collaboration opportunities. Mayor Mack highlighted the partnership gives the border cities a stronger platform to address regional challenges, while Mayor Goebel expressed pride in what the partnership has achieved so far. The councillors have scheduled another meeting in August to review their partnership agreement and identify specific priorities for the coming year. More news out of New South Wales. Ticketless parking fines are now banned there. The government flagged it would ban the practice last year, declaring it unfair. Councils must now issue on-the-spot fines for parking-related offences. Willoughby City Council is holding its inaugural literary festival later this month over 2 weekends at the Chatswood Library, featuring a diverse program of author talks, panel discussions and interactive workshops. The festival will showcase established writers like Jane Caro and Garth Nix, as well as emerging talents. And the City of Canterbury Bankstown has launched a new education campaign targeting the misuse of disability parking spaces across the region. The initiative aims to raise awareness about the importance of the spaces for people with mobility challenges and to encourage proper display of valid permits. Mayor Bilal El Hayek says the council has issued nearly 6,000 fines since 2018 to those illegally using the spaces. Offenders face hefty penalties exceeding $680 and potential demerit points. Let's check in on some Queensland news. Several million Queenslanders are facing a new financial burden this week as the state government's controversial bin tax comes into effect. From far north Queensland to the Gold Coast, 19 councils are now dealing with a significant reduction in waste levy offset payments, totalling nearly $30 million. Alison Smith, the CEO of the Local Government Association of Queensland, said councils in waste levy zones will no longer receive the 100% offset previously paid by the state. She said that offset has been crucial in preventing the levy from being applied to household bins. The LGAQ has launched a campaign called Bin the Tax, featuring an animated ibis nicknamed Chucky the Bin Chicken to raise awareness. Local mayors are voicing strong opposition. Gladstone Mayor Matt Burnett is calling on the government to pause the tax until a full review is completed, while Fraser Coast Mayor George Seymour says his council will be forced to pass on $1 million in extra costs to households this year alone. The state budget estimates the waste levy will generate $477 million in revenue this financial year. Cairns Council's Mayor Amy Eden has removed a controversial social media video after several councillors claimed that it misrepresented their positions during a recent council debate. The video featured edited excerpts from a council meeting where the mayor cast the deciding vote against a policy regarding councillor contact with developers. It included red graphics labelling some councillors as voting for red tape. One councillor said the video created a false narrative and was edited to make us sound stupid, while another requested its removal, describing it an unfair representation. The Cairns Post reported that Mayor Eden has apologised behind closed doors and removed the content, but several councillors are still seeking a public apology, and questions are being asked about whether her actions breached the Queensland Code of Conduct for councillors. In other news, suspended Townsville Mayor Troy Thompson will receive a 2.5% pay rise despite being under investigation by the Crime and Corruption Commission. The increase will push his annual earnings above $230,000, according to ABC News. Mr Thompson has stated that during the cost of living crisis, no councillor should receive a pay increase, and he's promised to donate any additional funds to local organisations and charities. Tourists looking to escape to the warm waters of the Whitsundays may soon face new restrictions on where they can stay. ABC News reported that Whitsunday Regional Council has proposed zoning changes that would move short-term accommodation away from residential areas. Mayor Ry Collins says the move aims to balance tourism needs with the housing concerns of locals. The region is currently experiencing a rental vacancy rate of just 1.4%, well below what experts consider healthy. And Douglas Shire Council has issued cautionary advice for the dingo breeding season, recommending people walk in pairs for safety as the animals become more active and territorial. Newsport reported that the advice follows concerns last year when a pair of young dingoes took up residence around the Port Douglas Sports Complex. A Christmas Day attack on a pet dog prompted council intervention and widespread public debate about the protection and preservation of dingoes. In Tasmania, there's been another heated meeting of Burnie City Council as a petition calling for Councillor Trent Aitken's resignation was tabled for discussion. The Advocate reported that the petition, with 749 signatures, cited hate speech, bullying and anti-discrimination on social media as grounds for Councillor Aitken's removal, particularly noting comments targeting the transgender community. Deputy Mayor Giovanna Simpson said Aitken's comments risked damaging the council's reputation and that many believe his position is no longer tenable. In a separate but equally contentious moment, Councillor Aitken's motion to remove the acknowledgement of country from council meetings was overwhelmingly defeated, with Aitken being the only councillor to vote in favour. Northern Midlands Council is facing opposition to proposed changes to its dog management policy, which would limit residential properties to a maximum of 2 companion dogs. The Examiner reported the controversial amendments, designed to align with state legislation, would require a kennel licence for residents wanting to keep more than 2 companion dogs or 4 working dogs on their property. Some have argued the move could deter people from moving to the area and force current residents with 3 or more dogs to make difficult decisions about their pets. But officials maintain the policy is not intended to separate pets from owners, and that existing pet owners would only need to reduce numbers through natural attrition. Tumby Bay District Council in South Australia has decided against renewing the lease it's held since 1999, citing inability to fund ongoing maintenance of the iconic Eyre Peninsula jetty. The Advertiser reported the announcement comes during a week when several other South Australian jetties have suffered severe storm damage. Infrastructure and Transport Minister Tom Koutsantonis has reacted angrily, accusing the council of deliberately neglecting its responsibilities over several years. He's warned that if the council fails to return the jetty in appropriate condition, the state government may pursue legal action or even consider closure or demolition of the structure. And from Western Australia, 7 regional councils are set to benefit from a major boost to water infrastructure, with more than $480,000 in funding announced through the state government's Community Water Supplies Partnership program. The program aims to build climate resilience in rural communities by improving local water infrastructure, with councils in Albany, Carnarvon, Condinin, Menzies, Perenjori and Plantagenet receiving support. The funded projects include new water tanks, pumps, pipelines, bores and dam upgrades. And the City of Rockingham has officially launched its FOGO curbside collection system, aiming to divert more than 12,500 tonnes of organic waste from landfill annually. The FOGO program is supported by $861,000 in state government grant funding and will process collected organic materials into nutrient-rich soil conditioner. Some extra news briefs for you. Mount Barker District Council in South Australia is seeking artists to create a public artwork for the new town square with a budget of up to $150,000. The commissioned piece should reflect Mount Barker's identity by connecting past, present and future while enhancing the 2,000 square metre town square that forms part of the city centre project. The town of Port Hedland in WA has endorsed 4 road names for the airport precinct that honour significant local figures, including the late Julie Aref, councillor, historian and manager of the Port Hedland Visitor Centre and much-loved community member. And the $8.9 million City of Coburn redevelopment of Malabar Park has been opened with a community open day on the weekend. The park has been transformed to include UCI-accredited BMX facilities and a pump track. It now serves as home for both the Coburn BMX Club and Friends of the Community charity and is being positioned to host national-level events that will benefit the local economy. Still to come, Roundup Extra. I'll be joined by Joseph Sweeney shortly from IBRS to talk about a concerning digital divide that has emerged in how Australians interact with their local councils. But firstly, some stories from overseas, starting in the UK, where a troubling new report from the UK Local Government Association reveals that over half of local councillors are falling victim to misinformation campaigns, while abuse and threats remain at alarmingly high levels. The LGA survey found that 52% of councillors have had false or misleading information about their personal or political conduct published publicly, with many warning about what they call dangers to democracy. 7 in 10 councillors reported experiencing abuse or intimidation in the past year, with a quarter saying they or someone close to them had received violent threats. Even more concerning, 3% experienced actual violence while performing their civic duties. In Warwickshire, Reform UK councillor Rob Howard has resigned as county council leader after just 42 days in office, citing health concerns, according to The Guardian. The dramatic development leaves 18-year-old George Finch, Howard's deputy, temporarily in charge of the council. Mr Finch, who was elected in May, has promised to keep the council in steady hands until a permanent replacement is selected. Reform UK took control of Warwickshire County Council in the May local elections, but fell short of an outright majority, securing 23 of 57 seats. Cities across America are finding themselves caught in a growing conflict between state sanctuary laws and federal immigration enforcement. SmartCitiesDive.com reports that several municipalities are now declaring themselves non-sanctuary cities in direct opposition to their state's sanctuary policies. From Huntington Beach, California to Grundy County, Illinois, local governments are passing resolutions pledging cooperation with immigration and customs enforcement agents. In Huntington Beach, the city has gone further by filing a lawsuit challenging California's Values Act, which limits cooperation with federal immigration authorities. Meanwhile, in Illinois, Grundy County Board Chairman Drew Muffler described their non-sanctuary declaration as partly symbolic, noting they're between a rock and a hard place due to dependence on state funding. In Canada, Toronto City Council has approved larger, more visible speed camera signage and moved to limit consecutive tickets from a single camera before drivers receive notification. Councillor Anthony Peruzza prompted the change by calling cameras speed traps, claiming they're obscured and poorly marked. CBC News reported the move comes as camera vandalism is on the rise in the city, with 5 cameras damaged in 2 days and a camera in one location destroyed 5 times in 6 months. The city expanded to 150 speed cameras in March. And in New Zealand, the Far North District Council has been ordered to pay more than $210,000 to former Chief Executive Blair King following his resignation in 2023. The total cost to ratepayers exceeds $430,000 when legal expenses are included, according to information obtained by Radio New Zealand under the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act. It continues what appears to be an unfortunate pattern for the council, with King being the third chief executive in recent history to leave under contentious circumstances with a substantial payout. Mr. King resigned less than a year into his role, citing a toxic work environment and being ghosted by councillors. A concerning digital divide has emerged in how Australians interact with their local councils. A major new report has revealed that our most financially vulnerable residents are significantly less likely to use online council services. To find out more about this new research conducted by IBRS and commissioned by Technology One, I'm joined by Dr. Joseph Sweeney, Senior Advisor with IBRS. Joe, welcome to the Roundup.
Thank you very much.
Tell me about this piece of research that Tech One has commissioned with you. How did you go about conducting it?
Well, the first thing is to have a really good question, and Tech One came to us and said, literally, the question was, what's getting in the way of people using government digital services? So we adopted a pretty rigorous methodology. The first thing is that we tried to make as much of it aligned with ABS data, so it is a representative sample. It's also well over 2,500 citizens, so it's statistically valid. And it was conducted largely online, so that's really important because that means that everybody who participated in this doesn't have a problem with being online.
Right.
They only will have a problem with using government services. So that was one of the really key points that we tried to get through in this study.
Right. So it's not a correlation of financial disadvantage with tech savviness, for want of a better term?
There is clearly a correlation. In fact, the inclusion of the critical question, socio-economic advantage and disadvantage, was actually, it was put in there more as a check, just to see if there was a correlation. We didn't expect the very, very strong correlation. It actually was the most important factor. Now, tech savviness means different things to different people. And we have to be careful with that. And I think that's one of the things that you can draw out from this. What somebody who lives and breathes working on a computer every day, like myself, thinks is tech savviness and intuitive is very different from a single mum who's really struggling, she's got part-time work. That's a very different equation.
So this figure of 56% of financially struggling residents who don't use any digital council services at all, were you as the researcher surprised at the strength of that number?
Yes, we didn't actually expect the results that we got, at least not for the very first. This is actually the second study we did. We did one in New Zealand and we got almost identical results.
Ah.
That's what prompted us to go, there's really something here. We need to explore this. And a government minister in Australia at the time actually asked us a whole bunch of questions about our research and suggested strongly it would be good to do in Australia to validate that. But the questions that they were putting forward were also, why? Why does this engagement happen? In the New Zealand study, we really couldn't answer the why. In the Australian study, we added questions that really got to the heart of why citizens are disengaging and why they particularly disengage when they're at a lower socioeconomic advantage.
Right. And across all demographics, you've found that these frustrations occur, haven't you?
Yeah, that was another surprise, and it happened in the New Zealand report as well, but it really happened here a lot. It's not about gender. It's not about age. If they do have employment, it's not about where they're employed. By far and away, the biggest factor is socioeconomic status. So what that says is the people who probably most need services are the ones least likely to be trying to use online services to get them. They just give up.
Right. What does this then tell us that councils need to be doing more of or less of in light of these findings?
Well, the irony to this, and yes, it was sponsored by a technology company, but the irony is you don't need to spend more on technology. That's not your problem. Most councils have spent quite a lot in the last 4 years working on their services, and the data also really strongly shows that the people who are least likely to use those services and their cohorts are also the ones that don't think they've improved at all. So
Right.
we've spent money to benefit the people who are already using services. That's effectively what's happened. So it's not about technology, clearly. It's about, first of all, being very clear about what types of processes can be automated first, and then how to explain the process. The challenge is, particularly with the most disadvantaged cohort, is that they get online and they're asked, you need to send us this. And then later on, sometime in the future, you now need to send us this. No, that wasn't the right thing. And so there's no visibility. And when we really started getting into this additional materials that the minister suggested we look at, it was literally we have to upfront educate before the process even starts, before the service even starts. Here's everything you need. And all the citizens were telling us this. They were all basically saying, show us what my entitlements are, but more importantly, show me what my obligations are for the entire journey. Set milestones, set clear dates when things will be done both by the local council, but also need to be done by the citizen. Make it clear up front. Guide me through it. And the good news is that's not a technology issue. It's an extension of service design. And at its heart, we've termed this idea of empathic design. Put yourself in the shoes of the most at-risk people in your community, and then design the systems to talk in their language. And I don't mean, Chinese or whatever else. I'm meaning talking in human language, not council policy language. And a combination of those things. Yeah. So it's actually a relatively low cost fix.
Yeah. You talk about this issue in respect of councils here, Joe. Is it the same? Your research might not tell you this, but is it the same at other levels of government as well?
The answer to that is yes and no.
Right.
At the federal level, the engagement is far higher. And the satisfaction rates right across the board are far higher with federal. It's really chalk and cheese with local.
Right.
Now, the reason for that is federal government has very clear processes that everyone knows they have to do. And there's also a bit of a network effect. If you know that your neighbour has to do this process online, you are going to also be able to do it online. So there's a social construct to this. But mostly, it's that federal services are fairly straightforward and well understood. When you drop down to the state services, it gets a little worse. And when you drop down into the local council services, everything falls apart.
Right.
And it's not the local council's fault. They're dealing with incredibly sophisticated and complex, very deeply personal and often urgent service needs. So the lesson from that is, don't try and automate everything. Automate the stuff, streamline the processes that will free up your staff to deal with those genuinely complex issues.
Joe, are there any councils that are doing this well that others can look to for guidance or for examples of this is how we need to approach this problem?
Now, I've not actually captured that in this particular research. We did look for which local councils the citizens were reporting in from. That's not statistically relevant. There are definitely councils who are doing well in this space. I'd say that what our data says is the traits of those councils are ones that, first of all, have a pretty uniform tech stack. Councils that have, on-prem systems and aging systems and, multiple fragmented systems and are trying to stitch it all together with various other tools, they struggle because they're not agile. The councils that have adopted user-centered design principles definitely punch well above their weight. But the reality is over the last 4 years, most of them have done that already. Right. So and the final thing is councils that, obviously the big councils, the big city councils who have bigger budgets, but they also have large populations, so they get a better return on the investment. They're doing very well.
So you've talked about some New Zealand studies that mirror the results here in Australia. What about other parts of the world? Do you know, can we look anywhere else for guidance there?
Oh, I wish. I really do.
Yeah.
Look, I would love to take this study across other regions. The UK would be an obvious one. The US is a little bit trickier. The answer is, before we started this project, we looked to see who else had done similar types of research. Who could we take methodologies from, and we couldn't find any that I considered stood the test of, rigor. This report, and I will say one thing about Tech One on this, they really leave us alone. One of the things they do is they ask us a tough question, and if that question is relevant to our customers, which are local councils and others, we take it on, and we take it on as a formal research. So this is sponsored research. It does go out under their name, but it is very much academically rigorous, independent research. So I really hope that I can do this in other countries, but at the time, no.
All right. Well, you never know. Down the track, someone might reach out to have you do that. Joe, it's been great to speak with you. People can access this report online. We'll pop the link in the show notes. It's an interesting read, and I hope all councils in Australia take some notice of it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
That was Dr. Joseph Sweeney from IBRS talking to us about that new report which was commissioned by Technology One. That's the latest from the Local Government News Roundup. If you have comments or feedback, you can email us at lgweeklynews@gmail.com or press the send a text button in your podcast player. The podcast is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences. Head to lgnewsroundup.com for more details about this episode. The Roundup is recorded in the city of Greater Geelong, Victoria, on the land of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. Until next time, thanks for listening, and bye for now. The next VLGA-LGIU Global Executive Live panel is on Tuesday the 22nd of July, exploring the topic of building the local economy. It will be held online from 5:30pm to 7pm, with panellists including Dr. Angela Jackson from the Australian Productivity Commission, David Marlowe, Chief Executive of Third Life Economics, and Merrin Tinkler, Manager Economy and Culture at Mount Alexander Shire Council. They'll explore the role of local government in economic growth, ways to ensure local economic planning remains resilient to economic changes, and what the shared challenges and opportunities are for local economic performance. Global panels are free for VLGA members and alumni and $60 for non-members. Visit the VLGA website to register now.